Could be swamp gas. There's a lot of that where I am. So
Yeah. Was it swamp gas or some other kind of gas
it
and
could
you
be
just don't
personal
want it?
gas. I mean, we're not sure.
Counter to intelligence.
Welcome to Counter to Intelligence. I am Ken, and with me is my faithful companion.
And I am here and not here at the same time. I don't know what realm I'm in. I'm excited to learn
Yeah.
today about
I,
the
you know
ghosts.
what? I'm just glad you didn't ghost me.
Oh my gosh. If I
And
ghost you on the ghost show, the like triple
yeah.
M
And
is
now everybody knows what we're talking about. We're talking about ghosts. And I don't know that ghost is necessarily a conspiracy so much as it's just one of those things that's a pseudoscience,
yeah.
but it's something some people believe on, some do not. But we are sponsored today by Transcendental Tourist, the Fedora Files Transcendental Tourist, Volume 1 by Chip Stetson, who is a ghost hunter, and he wrote this book of his findings. And he does some places like the Crescent Hotel, Bobby Mackey's, which got torn down recently. So this is probably one of the last times it was investigated was by Chip before they tore it down. The Alamo. Um, he's currently working on a couple others, and I've known Chip a long time, and I do have some ghost stories to share, and one of them involves Chip.
I want to meet
So
this
later.
chip fellow.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah. So we were going to talk about ghosts because you said you wanted to. So,
I do. I do. I don't know a lot about them. I know that I've watched all the shows, like the Discovery Channel had some stuff at different places and they bring in instruments. So I don't know.
mhm.
Did you do some research? Are there certain instruments that are
I
used and how do
there
they
there's
work?
all kinds. I was going to go more like what kind of ghosts there are, but then we can
Oh,
get
okay.
into like the different instruments like I guess there's a different like radio EMF detectors, those kind
Yeah.
of things. There's spirit boxes where it
Okay.
like picks up radio frequencies, and those that's pretty freaky. Where it
Wow.
can dowsing rods, uh, which I have a
Mhm.
story involving dowsing rods
Ooh.
that I experienced that we'll get into. But so first off, like what are ghosts in general? What people believe ghosts are? Ghosts, it's basically a spirit, deceased person, and they're like if you see them, they're often described as shadowy, translucent, or wispy, and they kind of look real but not. But there's different kinds of ghosts, and there's obviously there's tons of different ghost shows out there. You got like the Ghost Hunters, and you got Ghost Hunters International, then you got Ghost Adventurers, and so on. And I have issue with the Ghost Adventurers only because I don't know why they want to fight these things. They're always every episode they're like hit me, scratch me. Like why would you antagonize something
Wow.
you can't see?
Yeah,
Like
that's
I
not
don't
good.
even antagonize people I can see, let alone.
Me neither. If I can avoid it. Yeah.
Now as I did my research, they say there's no scientific evidence for these
Right. In
things, but at the
quotes. Yeah.
same time people are using scientific, like we said, these different EMF detectors, which also they found like high EMF can cause paranoia and those kind of things that make you sense things.
Uh,
So that means you're in an electromagnetic field of some kind. Um,
okay.
but and the thing that's interesting is with these ghost hunting people, a lot of times they're in these houses that have no electricity anymore. So they can go around and check that there's no plugs, but then they'll walk into a room and just one little area has this higher electric magnetic pulse. And there's
Okay.
no explanation for that.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of
That's
things. Now,
interesting.
it,
So they are completely cut off from the grid, yet
yeah,
they're getting EMF rate readings that are sky high, or
right.
at least
Now,
dramatically
now
higher than the
yeah,
other.
now that doesn't mean every place is that way. I know like if you read Chip's book, he's been into places where there are no electro and he's sensed
Right.
things.
Right.
Then at the same time, he's been in places that, like Bobby Mackey's was a working bar. And so
Right.
you can't turn off all electricity. But
Right.
so you do have things that interfere with you and
Yeah.
do that. Now, do you want to know like what the different
I
kind
want
of
to know the
hauntings there are?
anatomy. Yeah, I'd like to know the different kinds, like sort of the, I don't know, the species, if you will, of the
All
ghosts.
right.
Like,
Well, we'll get into like that, but there's these different now. This is kind of like I've kind of categorized them into. I've kind of lumped these things together as I researched. And these are also what people call them, but then I've kind of put a bunch together. The one of the big ones is it's called residual haunting,
oh,
and basically it's an event that happened in an area it's imprinted itself on the environment. So it's
okay,
almost like a recording. So it's
right,
just this loop. So you like
okay,
they said often it's like caused by a traumatic event like a murder. Um, and it basically they're saying the spirits you're seeing or whatever are unaware of anything around them.
right,
And so you can't go up and say, hey, are you okay? It just does what it does. And you're kind of seeing like you're watching a TV show, and it just happens. And
right,
there's a lot of places that say they have it, like Gettysburg has supposedly a lot of these which makes sense. It was a battlefield where people will see soldiers marching or doing things, and it's like in the same area all the time.
yeah,
And so that's a residual. It's not, there's nothing. I mean, it would be freaky to see, but there's they say there's nothing to be afraid of when you see it because these things don't see you. They're not going to react to you. And most time they just, you're just seeing this stuff over and over. And that's where you get some people say, oh, I smell cigar smoke, or I smell roses, or like this certain perfume that my grandmother wore, or something. Like it's a residual thing. But they're not really there
right.
as so much. Like I guess that's what it is. It's just an event or whatever. Then you have what they call intelligent or interactive hauntings. And these are the ones that they're aware of you
Mhm.
being there. They can move objects, they can communicate, they can kind of appear. Um, that's what people
Wow.
say. I've never seen one, but uh,
But they can
and
interact in a
right,
way.
right. So you can ask them questions and they'll respond to it. Those are the ones where like you get uh the recordings where you ask it and then you listen to it later and it's the voice is there, or
Yeah,
and you can hear these questions being you know and I've had people who said they've experienced that.
wow.
Or turn on certain lights. You'll see like on these different shows will be like, turn this light on if you got kicked in the face, and then lights come
Right,
on,
right. Oh,
yeah, turn this one if you got kicked in the jimmy. And then well, it's wow. And it's like that sucks for you. And
yeah.
so
You don't want
yeah,
that.
yeah. So it's like so they do that. But some people say it's all fake and they're using remotes to make lights, but some people I will say Chip has experienced those, and I know him to the point that I know he isn't gonna fake it because
Right,
he debunks things. So I keep
right,
speaking up Chip, but it's because he's the ghost hunter I know
right.
personally. So and now the
You
reason for
kind of got
these,
an in the ghost hunter community. I figure you
yeah,
oh, they all know.
that's my end, like because he's expanding, he's writing a couple more books on it, his adventures. It within the intelligence hauntings, you got the reason is either like they have unfinished business, their death was traumatic, maybe have they say like an emotional connection to that place
Hmm,
or to the people that live there. Like so maybe it's like it could be your grandma or your grandfather
yeah,
or a relative of some kind.
right,
They some say they may have a fear of the afterlife. They don't want to walk towards the light because maybe they know, well, I'll get to that light, but I'm not going to end up staying there. Yeah,
right.
maybe they know. I don't know. And others say they're seeking a justice to like right or wrong. So
Interesting. All right. So there's a whole backstory to each one of these, I assume. It sounds like
yeah,
it's an emotional component. Yeah.
yeah. Now we got more. You have
Wow.
the demonic activity.
Oh,
Now this
this
obviously
is bad.
these are entities that are not human and never were human.
Right.
Um, so they often show up as beautiful beings and they manipulate you.
Oh,
They a lot of people think that I've read like when that you go to a haunting and it's a child spirit, like it's a
right.
little kid, hey, play with
Right.
me. A lot of people have afterwards, not all, but a lot will have very bad experiences after playing with this child or in
Wow.
inviting the child to stay with them, and
Oof.
because it's not a child.
Right.
And so it's a lot. You have these things that will try and trick you. They also said sometimes these are the ones that will physically attack you.
Hmm.
You feel oppressed, and oftentimes, if you leave yourself open up to these, this can lead to oppression and possession of the person. So
Wow.
those are
We
like,
want to avoid this. We definitely want to
yeah,
avoid this.
this is also why I kind of avoid all ghost things because I just don't trust any of them. Sorry, ghost. I know I shouldn't lump all the ghost beans into one thing. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
ghostist or whatever,
Yeah,
but
it might be Ghostess. What about Casper?
yeah,
Like fictional character? I don't know. Friendly
yeah,
ghost.
was he good or bad? We don't know.
You don't
Now then you
know.
got
No.
this is in our, and I kind to me these kind of border on demonic, but they're called shadow people or shadow creatures.
Okay.
Basically, these are the things where like you're in a place and you out of the corner of your eye you see a dark figure, or you just see a dark figure run across. Uh,
Right.
Usually they look human or like an animal,
Okay.
and you get it. They're the kind of thing that makes you freaked out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say they don't really do anything, they won't harm you, but I don't know.
I don't know.
I lumped in, and then this other one, doppelgangers.
Oh,
These are entities. They people separate the shadow people, the doppelgangers, into demonic. I kind of lump them all together because I think if you hear what they do, they're not good.
they're not good.
Doppelgangers will mimic living people,
Oh,
and oftentimes will lure you into a bad area. So, like, let's say you and I went to a haunted house
right.
and we're investigating, and there's a room that the floor's completely gone and it's a door,
Right.
and then suddenly I hear, "Hey Ken, come here, come in here," and it sounds like you, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, okay, and I open the door, I run in, I fall and I break my leg, and then you're somewhere completely else,
I'm
and
really
it
sorry
was,
for my doppelganger. He's got it
yeah, yeah.
for you. Yeah.
So I'm just saying those are the people in folklore. These would be like the banshees. Also, are considered this where they wail. They kind of
Yeah.
come before a misfortune. So in folklore, they kind of are not as bad. They're kind
Okay.
of like an omen to things to come.
Gotcha. Okay. So they
Now,
don't do anything. They might just forebode something bad
yeah,
happen. All right.
and
The
we
shadow
only have, yeah.
people are any of them do, because you said they kind of come and they look like humans and then they dart off. Do you think any of them are the Amazon people? Like, do you think that's the Amazon delivery guy or it's something else? I'm
I don't
curious.
I it could be both.
It could be both. Yeah. Or
Yeah,
it's a doppelganger.
yeah,
I'm a little concerned about the Amazon now. All right.
yeah. You
But
should.
continue. There's so many. I did not
Yeah.
realize there were this
Well,
many
there's
categories.
I only have two more left of the different kinds. Um, it was one is haunted objects, and these would be like you have like there's a lot of cursed dolls or haunted dolls, basically where I guess Annabelle. They made a movie about Annabelle, but Annabelle's a real doll that and I think there's another name, Robbie or Robert, the haunted
Okay.
doll. He and down in Key West. But you also have like different the Dybbuk box. I think that's how you say it. But there's cursed objects or not necessarily cursed, but objects that hold things. They say
Okay.
like the limousine that JFK was killed in is considered a haunted object, as well as the car that James Dean died in. Uh,
Wow.
Supposedly, people who have owned the car that James Dean have had bad things happen, so they consider it a cursed object. So it's one of those
Gotcha.
like, why do you want to buy it?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
don't.
yeah. There's also the Hope Diamond is considered a cursed object or whatever, and it's in the museum here in
I was gonna say
DC.
yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say it's not in somebody's house, it's just
yeah,
there.
not now. It used to be, and
Okay.
now, and the other thing is King Tut's treasure is
Right.
considered one of those things because the people
Right.
who opened his tomb
First.
all had really bad demises within a year.
Yeah.
So obviously some can be explained, but then it's just the idea that all the people who went into the tomb at first all died within like a year or two. So it's
Yeah.
like even though some were natural causes, you're still kind of like, well, that's weird.
So this is different than a curse. So the ghost could be an omen for a curse, but the curse
Yeah,
is separate. Yeah.
yeah, but it's a haunted object of some kind, and
Okay.
usually these things all cause misfortune. The last haunting is called a portal haunt, and this is where you there's like doorways to the other side, and you might see like glowing orbs, you might see like creatures or angelic beings or people of some kind, but they come and go, and nobody really knows.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people like the scientific explanation for all this is hallucinations, sleep paralysis, which is also that falls under shadow people because a lot of people have the old hag syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where it's
No.
it falls under sleep paralysis, where you'll wake up and there's like this woman or whatever on top of you, and it's scary, and you can't do anything. You're awake and you can't move, and you're just
Oh, wow.
paralyzed.
Oh, wow.
Some people experience this, and so, but they also say that sleep paralysis is a thing that happens to people naturally. Uh,
Oh, okay. So it's
so
a psychological
yeah,
slash physical thing. Okay.
yeah, and then and some it can happen to anybody. Like some like it could be some people just it happens randomly. Some people it's
Yeah.
because of a brain injury. Some people it's because of an illness. Some people because they're taking a medication and that you don't know. The other is suggestibility because the human mind is prone to if you are told you're going into this place and 1,000 people have experienced this, your mind will prepare yourself uh, to experience it.
No, I totally
And
that I can totally believe. Yeah.
and so like you go into a scary building and you're told this is haunted and it is haunted by this murderer with an axe
Right.
out of the corner of your eye, you will see a guy with an axe and you'll be
Yeah.
what the and
And then you'll realize
so
it was a fire extinguisher later.
right.
But
So
still. Yeah.
yeah. Now those those are some of the cool thing I looked into. If you want to hear these,
Yeah.
the oldest. You want to hear the oldest ghost story?
I do. You promised this last episode. They all connect.
Well, this is funny because I didn't realize that this connected in such a way. Last week we talked about Bigfoot,
Right.
and the oldest story that had a thing about Bigfoot was the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Right.
The oldest ghost story comes from the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Whoa.
But wait, it gets even crazier. Do you remember what the Bigfoot was called in the epic? In Enkidu, Enkidu,
Yeah.
and he was described. The description sounds like Bigfoot. Well,
Right.
he and Gilgamesh became really good friends. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enkidu dies and then comes back as a ghost to
No.
warn Gilgamesh of something to help him. So it's crazy that the Bigfoot comes back as a ghost to help Gilgamesh. So it's like
Crazy.
twofold there. You got Bigfoot, and then Bigfoot becomes a ghost.
Yeah. And then what
And
did he warn him about? Is that another
I
episode? What that is?
no, well, it was just like the something that was going to happen. It wasn't like and
Well, like the New
Gilgamesh
Jersey drones,
continue.
they're going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're not. Maybe I don't know how. As I research more, I didn't go that depth. I just was like, oh, that's pretty cool that was a, the one. But like, there's also Babylonian tablets that are 3,000 years old that talk about ghosts and people interacting. Um, Pliny, Pliny the Younger, Roman author, he wrote about ghost hauntings in a house in Athens in first
Yeah.
century AD. Another playwright, Mas Platus, uh, he wrote a play called Masteloria, which had a scene with a ghost. Um, so the Romans had a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Um, so and then you also have like a 1,001 nights in Arabia where there's the jinn are kind of a ghost, and then there's all these like the Japanese had a ghost, and uh, another interesting story comes from the book of Samuel in the Bible,
Yeah.
where Samuel died, and Saul is the king. David's not king yet, and Saul's trying to figure out what is going on, and he goes to this witch who is the witch of Endor, and at the time, all witchcraft had been like
Oh,
outlawed,
yeah.
and witches were killed. So this lady was in hiding, but Saul found out who this woman is, and he goes to her, and she's like, no, no, I don't do that. And he's like, look, I'm not going to tell. He disguises himself, so she doesn't know it's King Saul. And she basically, he convinces her. He goes, I won't tell anyone, please.
Right.
I just need to contact this spirit. And she asks, and he asks to contact Samuel, and Samuel appears. And when she does, she finds out that's King Saul. And so she
Wow.
thinks she's in oh crap, you know, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And basically Samuel rebukes Saul for like, why are you bothering me in the afterlife? You know you're not supposed to do this.
Right.
So there's a whole thing in the Bible where a ghost interacts with King Saul in this medium. So that's in the Bible. So if you believe the Bible, that in a
Seems
way,
like, yeah, the
there are
historians were
ghosts.
pretty accurate. That's what I've been
Yeah.
told. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I found that interesting that there is a ghost story in the Bible.
That, I
And
find that very interesting. It's not just a modern thing made for Discovery TV.
right, it's been
Rating
around
been around for a while.
for centuries, since the dawn
And
of time, like,
yes.
as far back. Now, the oldest American ghost story, I found this one too. Uh, it happened, it's called the Knocks from the Cellar. Um, and basically, it took place in 1799 in Maine.
Okay.
And there was this sea captain named George Butler, and his wife Nellie Butler dies in childbirth, and I believe her child dies as well. And so he's kind of living alone, and then the spirit of Nellie appears to this 15-year-old named Lydia Blaisdell, and basically is telling is trying to contact George and doesn't want George to be alone. And it's kind of a weird story, but basically, the ghost tells George to marry Lydia. George at the time is like in his like almost 30, and Lydia is, like I said, 15. So even in that day and age, that was considered weird. So I know oftentimes like, well, is that back in 79? No, even they said even in that day, they
They
were kind of
know.
like,
Yeah.
that's a little
That's
bit,
a little far.
that's a
Yeah.
little far.
Yeah.
But supposedly the ghost showed herself to like 30 different people. In fact, the local pastor, whatever he was, I don't think he was a priest, he went to debunk it, and she appeared to him. And
Wow.
he was like, holy crap, this is
Yeah.
real. Well, eventually George marries Lydia.
Right.
They get married, and then Nellie the ghost turns on Lydia and says that you're gonna die in childbirth, and so's your kid, just like me, because you married George, which is a weird turn because she was trying to get them together, and then I guess she got jealous, the jealous
Yeah.
ghost. I don't know.
Yeah.
And but this is the thing, and basically that's what happened. She died in childbirth, and so uh that is the oldest American ghost story. But like all these people saw it, and
Right.
it was written about in the newspapers of the time. And I guess all in all, 48 people witnessed
Hmm.
Nellie of in some
Hmm.
way, shape, or form, either moving objects or actually seeing her. But
Right.
people like all went on, So that's the oldest American ghost story.
Right.
But
That's a lot of people though, to be honest.
yeah,
Like
48 people.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on ghosts? So I'm
I mean,
curious, like, where do you?
I do think people like have perceptions, like they think that this like it's suggest power suggestion for sure,
Mhm.
right? I imagine it's like a lot of the other things where like we can probably explain 80% of them and there's a 20, it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Kind
this
of
could
like
be
the Bigfoot. Like you can explain like
right.
80%, then there's like that 20% where you're like, what? That's
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or the 411 people, I still am freaking out about the guy that was 3,000 miles or whatever away or
Yeah.
something, right? Like that's crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think so. I like the idea of the EMF could actually create the sighting itself. Like if there's some weird, I don't
Hmm.
know, plutonium or some radioactive thing somehow associated with that house in some particular area that's producing, EMF radiation, maybe that causes paranoia or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of the same thing. Like
Yeah.
there's some that are just unexplained. We don't know.
Yeah. Now, what I find interesting is like on some of these ghost shows, they'll do the voice phenomenon thing where they'll ask a
Yeah,
question, and they used to, and I give them kudos for doing this now, but they used to like record it, and then later in the show they would find what they heard,
right,
and it's like, and me being it from the film and editing side of the world, that can be faked. I've actually faked voice phenomenon. Like
right.
that's easy to do.
Because you
Um,
just kind of insert it. Right?
and even now with AI, it's even easier.
Oh,
But
I
what
bet.
they'll do now is they have the video record. They'll ask the question. They'll wait a second. They'll pause it. They'll rewind it, and they'll listen live right
Right.
then.
Yeah.
And I guess you could still maybe go back, but it's like their reaction to it, and it would be really hard to do the
Yeah, I
way they're
agree.
doing it now.
Yeah.
Um, so and some of them, they say some pretty interesting, bizarre things.
Yeah.
And some of them are like, for me, again, I like the ones where they let it play back and they don't say what they think it said,
Right.
and they let you hear it, and then you hear it, and then maybe in 5 minutes they'll be like, yeah, I think it said this, and you're like,
Right.
that's what you heard too.
Yeah.
But they also used to be like, he said no, and it's
Right.
like,
Right.
and it's like, yeah, it's no, and
Yeah.
but like, I like it when they give you a little pause so you can actually hear it before they
Yeah.
say what they think it said.
Oh,
Um,
totally.
yeah,
No,
because
I
again,
think they've gotten
it's
better.
suggestion. It's suggestion. You hear things,
Yes,
and
exactly. And hopefully it's not a producer whispering off in a,
yeah,
no, or
yeah.
something silly
But
like
I mean,
that.
it would be harder to do that.
Live.
I get live, like post. It's easy to go in and be like,
Right.
no,
Right.
but
Right.
did you hear that? Did you
I did
said
hear
no?
something came
Said
through.
no. Yeah,
Yeah, I heard it too. It definitely was a
yeah.
clear no.
It said no. You heard no, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I heard no.
You heard give Ken $10, right? Give Ken
I
$10.
didn't hear that part,
Well,
but
listen real closely. Let's say, should Tom give Ken $10? Yes.
oh,
Did
whoa, whoa, that's
did
coming
you
through
hear it?
pretty clearly. I heard
Did
it.
yeah, that
I
you don't want to tick off a ghost.
I don't. I mean, you might find $10 in your mailbox. I don't know. Like,
Better.
yeah, I'll
Now,
send some people. I got some people. I'll send them.
yeah, well, I was
You know,
curious. So do you think there are ghosts? Where do you fall on that? I mean,
I
I know you said that you think that the EMF stuff could affect it,
I
but do
think
you
it could
think there are?
affect it. I don't know. I've seen some of those shows where I have to admit it's kind of crazy. I'm like, what are they
Mhm.
capturing on this film that looks so
Yeah.
real? And some of this stuff was before the CGI was good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I'd say I'm skeptical, but also open-minded about this. I feel like it could be something. I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know. I honestly don't know how to process what I've seen because some of those things are quite convincing if you've seen some of the videos,
Yeah.
whereas something actually did move. Like that's weird.
Yeah. Did now have you ever do you know anyone that's had an experience or have told you that, man, I had this weird thing? Have you ever had anyone tell you that? Or have you
I
had any like weird experience that kind of wigged you out?
I have not had any weird experiences. I've heard of other people doing something that sounded like a paralysis thing, where they
Hmm.
felt like someone was on top of them and they couldn't move. I've
Yeah.
definitely heard that before. And then they
Okay.
felt like they like said a prayer or did something, and then that
It
thing
relieves.
suddenly relieved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really weird.
Now, have you seen, I don't know if you've seen these. If you go onto YouTube, you can find like the Tesla um cemetery drives. Have you seen this?
Oh, I need to see this.
This is pretty cool. I don't own a Tesla, and this is the only reason I want to buy one now. And yeah, I want to spend like 40, 50 grand just to do this.
Just for this.
Like I just need to find someone that owns one and I want to try it. But because I guess it has that feature where it can see, like it lets you know, like if it's dark or foggy, you can see
Right.
stick figure people,
Right.
and so oh, there's somebody on the side, and because it can sense it. It has puts
Right.
out some kind of kind of like the Xbox Connect that they
Right.
used to have.
Yeah.
Um, but it's better than that. But like, so you can see when you can't see, it sees these, like, and it's a guy walking a dog, and you can see, and as you get closer, like, oh yeah, there he is. Well, people have been driving through a cemetery at night, and the thing is on, but it's not cloudy, it's not foggy, so they can see, but they
Right.
see stick figure people just walking
Oh wow.
through the cemetery and crossing in front of them, and it's like there's nobody there,
Right.
and so the technology on the Tesla seems to be uh catching ghosts or
Right.
something.
Or right.
um
Or bad AI training. But I like the ghost. The ghost sounds cooler.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, no, they're driving through a cemetery and it's live, and they're like have their like phone out, and they're like showing nothing. They're coming down and you're seeing it, like,
crazy. I'm gonna have
so
to
it's
watch
not.
it.
Yeah, so you have to look at it. It's pretty interesting. I was like, that's
Yeah.
really, and the people are
Yeah.
genuinely freaked out about it, and they're like, what is
Yeah.
going on? This is bizarre, because like you can also see it when they drive through a city. It sees the people in
Right.
very just the same way,
Yeah.
and it's not picking up a big crowd. It's like picking like one or two,
One or
like
two.
just there in a center. But I'm one of these where I don't know why a ghost would. Now I know some people say ghosts wouldn't go to a cemetery because it has no connection, but if you go with the idea of the object or whatever, if the
Right.
person is buried with their favorite necklace, or the buried
Right.
in their favorite outfit, or just they really like their body,
Right.
that's where their body is now. I really liked being alive, and that was my body. Yeah.
Right. Kind
So
of got
I
an
mean,
attachment.
yeah, there
Yeah.
could be some attachment there. Uh,
Yeah.
like if you go with the like I've argued, like, some, because some, like in the Christian theology, it's like if you die, you go to heaven or to hell.
Right.
But
Right.
if you actually look at what the Bible says about that, yes, if
Right.
you die in a belief in God, in Christ, you go to heaven.
Right.
But if you don't believe, it doesn't say you go to hell right away. It says you wait till the judgment, then
Right.
go. So the
Right.
judgment's supposed to be at the end of time. So there could be all these people who are just waiting.
Is there like a purgatory like that's
Yeah, or
after
purgatory.
here?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
purgatory is this walking around on this
Right.
planet. Like you're
Yeah.
still stuck here. Like, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to get out of here.
Right.
That exactly. Yeah. So there is like those in between areas. Like
Right.
where do you fall in that?
There you go.
So
But purgatory, my understanding is purgatory is a state and not necessarily a place.
there is
So,
a city named Purgatory.
oh, maybe it's a place. I
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah. There's also a city named Hell in Michigan, which makes total sense if you ever been to Michigan. So yeah. I was
But
like,
maybe
well,
you
that,
found it.
and there's the thing is, when hell freezes over, it does every year, because it's in
Yeah.
a horrible place in Michigan that does freeze over every year.
Oh,
So
that's hilarious.
so
We
all
need
you
to do
got,
it on location, like for
yeah, if
that.
anyone ever tells you, well, I'll do that when hell freezes over, then like come winter, send them the temperature of hell in Michigan, be like, dude, it's 22 degrees, it's frozen over.
I think there's like 1,000 memes about to be generated from our show right now.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
that's
I
what's
hope
going to
so.
happen.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Now,
Maybe we
now,
could get a royalty on the memes. I don't know.
yeah.
We'll work on
Now,
it.
I had told you in the last episode that I have some experiences to share.
Oh, you do.
So
Yes.
I am going to, do you want to hear them? So,
I completely want to hear them. Yes, I'm
okay.
very curious.
So the first one comes from my grandmother, who's passed away now. My grandma, Dondero. Uh, when she was getting ready to get married to my grandpa at the time, her cousin Eddie had passed away, I think 6, 7 months prior. I don't know how or why, but before he had died, she was engaged to my grandpa, and there was a set of china that my her cousin Eddie had promised her that she could have when she got married, and but nobody knew where it was.
No,
No one could figure out where he had put it. Nobody knew. We have no idea. We have no idea where this stuff is. They looked everywhere for it because they
right.
knew he had everyone knew, and they wanted to give it to my grandma as kind of like, that was his wedding gift to her. And so they're like, we wanted to make sure she gets it. So they
Right.
couldn't find it anywhere. So I think it was like about 2 weeks before the wedding, she was in bed asleep. She felt somebody sit on her bed. This is like in the middle of the night. She wakes up and it's her cousin Eddie sitting at the end of her bed. And he
What?
turns to her and says, Charlotte, the china is in a box behind blah, blah, blah. Told her exactly to the T where it was in this attic, to the point that she's like, okay. She's like, she wasn't afraid because it was her cousin and he wasn't scary. It looked like
Right.
her cousin. And then he just was gone. So the
Wow.
next day, she went to her family and said, hey, I know where the china is. Eddie told me. And they're like, what? And she told them what happened. They're like, okay, we'll go look. So they went up in the attic, moved some stuff, and lifted the thing just like he said. And there it was.
Right.
And that was where the china was.
Oh my God.
And so she got it and she had it. And like we ate Thanksgiving off of this china, you know. So
And it wasn't
I'm
haunted. It was not a
no, it
haunted.
wasn't haunted, but like so I thought that was a very interesting kind of cool story.
It is
Um,
kind of crazy that I mean, I totally believe that that happened. So the question is, she was conscious, right? She wasn't like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it woke her up. So
yeah,
that was her claim. And the thing is, she had no idea. Like she described it like it was very detailed description. So it wasn't like it's behind a box in the right corner. It was like behind this, under this, you have to move. Like it was like very detailed what was there. And so it was just an interesting story. And I always thought that was really cool, like growing up. So that was the first one I have. Now I gotta look up something real quick.
okay, all right, I'm ready. That's a freaky story. I mean, I feel like too, it's if you know the person and you know they're like not disposed to making up stories, right? And then they tell you something like that, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
they clearly
it,
believe this happened, right? Like, and I feel like, unless we could prove that they got some kind of they had a psychotic break right at that moment, which seems unlikely, that they were experiencing something.
yeah.
You find it?
So yeah, I found it because I wanted to make sure I said the right thing here because this is so I I used to work when I was younger at the US Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, nice.
And now this place I they have like the military police. It's on the Air Force base, but you can come in, you don't need a special pass because it's a special area that
Right.
it's section off. It's huge. It's way bigger than the Air and Space Museum at the Smithsonian. It's like if you can ever go to Dayton, Ohio and see this place, it's worth it. It's phenomenal. It's
Oh,
really
I
cool.
love to see it.
And I worked there a couple summers, and it
Right.
was really fun. But the guards are literally the MPs. It's
Mhm.
that who guard this place. So
Yeah.
they have all these old World War II planes. I mean, they have one of the first airplanes by the Wright brothers. They have all these planes from different wars, all the way up. They have the stealth fighter, stealth bomber. They have all these rockets, all kinds of cool stuff. Um, so I used to, talk to the military guys, and they would tell me stories how like they hated being there at night. And this
Right.
one guard told me how he would go. He was when he first was there. He's like, "Yeah, we got to patrol this," and the other guy's like, "I'm not patrolling this place. This place is freaky at night." He goes, "You can do it. I'm not gonna."
Right.
And he told me about how he walked by a B-17 bomber and he heard like a clicking noise and he turned and looked and the machine gun from the thing was pointed right at him and the clicking was sounding like someone was trying to pull the triggers on the machine gun pointed at him.
Right.
Like there's no bullets, but he said,
Right.
and that was the last time he patrolled. But
I
uh
can understand that.
yeah, but if you go there now, I've not been back there, so things may have changed here. But when I worked there, they still have the box car, which is one of the B-29s that dropped. This one, I think the other one is at the Smithsonian. They're the two big bombers that dropped the atomic bombs. Uh, Boxcar dropped the Fat Man
Right.
on Nagasaki, and then I don't know what the other one is, but Boxcar is at the U.S. Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio.
Mhm.
Now, the story was at night, there's these huge, at the time, huge fluorescent lights, and I don't know if they're still this way or not. So may not be that way, but this is when I was there. And the story was at night, these things were huge, like 20, 30 feet long and super heavy. it would swing like a pendulum
Right.
over just the boxcar. None of the others moved,
Whoa.
just this one. And the MPs would always tell me, "Oh yeah, yeah, that happened.
That's
That
just what
happened."
it
So
does.
they've
It's like,
seen it.
yeah.
And I was like, "Man, I want to see it. I want to see it," but it never I was never there.
Right.
So and I don't know if it occurred with like I don't know at night if it had to do something with what time at like when the bomb was dropped over in Japan, what time it was here. I don't know. That's speculation, but I just know that was the story. So I always wanted to see that. Uh, and it just wasn't gonna happen because the place closed at 6,
Mhm.
and I was never there. Well, it happened that one year they had these dignitaries come, and they had a big gala at the Air Force Museum, and I volunteered to work. I mean, volunteer. I said I'd do it. I got paid. I wasn't just volunteering. I got paid to be there, and so I was there. And then after we were cleaning up, is probably about 10:30 at night, and the guards knew I really wanted to go back there. And they said, "Dude, do you want to go see if
Right.
the light's swinging or not?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I totally do."
Right.
And so they had to unlock stuff. And we walked back there, and I come around the corner and I look up, and it is literally the only light swinging like a pendulum, like none of the
Wow.
others. And you look at it, there's no air conditioning unit near
Right.
it that's big enough. Like there's no way it
Right.
could blow to make it do that. And
Right.
none of the others were moving. And there's one this one's here, this one's here, not, and this is the only one, like only one doing it. And they're like, "You want to go back there?" And I was like, "No, I don't need to. I can see it. That's fine."
Right. Good.
That's because
Wow.
he
That's
wanted
great.
to take me back to see the B-17 that made the clicking noise. And I was like, "I don't need to. No, that's
Yeah,
fine."
I don't need to be shot. That's
Yeah.
okay.
And so I was like, that's it for me.
Yeah.
Now when I was with Chip, this
Hmm.
is now I've been to Gettysburg a couple times. One time at Gettysburg, I was in the cemetery area doing some video stuff just because I got a
Right.
new camera. I was messing around with it.
Right.
And I saw out of the corner of my eye two dudes dressed in like uniform,
Mhm.
and they were walking. And I thought there's a reenactment or something.
Right.
And so I tried to run over to see what was going on. And I couldn't find them. And then I talked to like a guy back at the visitor center. I was like, "Oh, where's the reenactment day?" There is no reenactment today. And so I don't know if maybe it was just two guys dressed
Right.
in attire, or maybe it
Oh,
was, but I mean, I feel like it was two guys dressed in an attire, but
okay.
because, even though it wasn't a reenactment doesn't mean people aren't walking around like,
That's true.
and
They could.
again, it was out of the corner of my eye. So I can't say for sure. Could have just
Right.
been two dudes in blue outfits. I have no
Right.
idea.
Right.
Could have been like,
Exactly.
some Mormons or not, um, Scientologists because they were the blue uniforms. But
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't
Scientology.
know. That's one. But now the one that's weird, I just wanted to throw that one out there because that was
Right.
just like, because at the time it didn't freak me out or anything. I just was like, because I was so busy, I got this new camera. I was all happy about that I wasn't even paying. And I was just like, oh
Right.
hey, because I was thinking I could go videotape a reenactment or something.
Yeah, that'd
But
be kind of cool.
but it wasn't going on. And in that area is big. It's easy to lose people. But I digress. The next thing that happened was Chip came to visit me, and he and my son Link and I decided to go to on this what I thought was like a regular ghost tour, which was you just go and hear stories. And
Right.
now the guy who gave it was really good. He told the history of the area and told all these great stories and really gave you a sense of what was going on. But then it got to this point where he's like, "Now we're gonna ghost hunt," and I'm like, and that really was not my thing. But I was like, "Okay, we're here, and Chip has set this up. I'll go. We'll do it." So we got these dowsing rods, and I'm sitting there, and he took us to this area which is a little bit off. Have you ever seen Remember the Titans?
Yeah.
Um it's it's where they filmed the field scene where they're on the field and it's like foggy and they're at Gettysburg, and
Right.
they really filmed it at Gettysburg. And so they're they're there, we could see the football field, but we're over on this kind of like this off-road type of thing. It was like gravelly.
Right.
And I had these dowsing rods, and he's like, ask questions. I'm like, all right. And I was like, hey, anybody here from Ohio? And because that's where I grew up, and I was
Right.
just being me being goofy, and the things crossed. Like,
Right
okay,
there.
that's weird. And so then I was like, okay, is anybody here from like Dayton? And they kind of moved in. I was like, what about Xenia? And they crossed. And I'm just
Well,
like, well, this is freaky, man. What's going on? And the
right.
guy came over, and my friend Chip was videotaping all this. So I have the video somewhere. I'll have to look for it. But if I can find it, I'll send it to you to see. But it's pretty weird. And then the guy's like, dude, he goes, do you know where you're standing? I'm like, no, what? And he's like, look behind you. And I look, and there was a monument to the men who died from Ohio. And it listed the towns they were in. It had Dayton, Xenia, and
Right.
I was just like, oh,
Wow.
that's where I'm done. And I was like, that was as much as I wanted to do. Because I was just being goofy, and it's like it was weird. And I was like, yeah,
So weird.
but it was really cool. Like I had no idea, like because he didn't really tell us like this was where the Ohio line was or anything like that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then I was right by this monument, which was kind of in the woods a ways.
Right.
And so he's like, yeah, you're probably talking to somebody who died there. And I was like, or something else. I don't know.
Right.
I'm
Wow. That's
not
cool.
inviting the soldier back to my house.
Yep. Don't do it. No
Yeah.
invitation. I have a no ghost invitation policy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I tend to believe that is stuff. Uh I
Right.
don't I have my issues with, are they the dearly departed? I think some
Right.
could be, but I always kind of fall on, I don't know if it's just my mind in general. I fall on the dark side thinking they're
Don't
bad.
worry. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
If it's going to be anything, I don't know if it's good, right? I feel like if
right.
you died and you were good, the theology, Christian theology is you go to heaven. So then what's hanging around, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I especially like with the ghost children. I have issue with that because I don't think, because I believe in God, so I don't think God's gonna leave a bunch of little kids on Earth
Right. Right.
like to
That doesn't
just
make
be
sense.
here
Right.
forever, like sadly, like poor little
Right.
Johnny,
Yeah. Little
like,
Johnny, yeah.
yeah,
Doesn't
come
need to
on.
be here. Go to the
Like
next one. Yeah.
maybe little Tom, but not little John.
Tom could be a problem. You don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Yeah.
all the times I've met are problems. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's true. It's true. We have a bad rep. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I think I think we've done the whole anatomy of ghosts. I feel like we haven't solved it, but we
Yeah.
definitely
But
kind of covered it, what it is, what's going on. Like there's a
yeah,
lot going
and if you watch the shows, you'll see them using techniques that in a way are scientific, like because
Yes.
they're testing things. And my only issue is when they come away saying, well, this is definite, because you're not.
You
Because
can't be that. Yeah.
yeah, and like I don't think it's one of those, like, because I said it's a pseudoscience. I don't think you can come away saying for sure exactly what it is.
Right.
Like it's something.
Right.
Is it an electromagnetic field that's causing this anomaly? Is it your own paranoia? Is it some sort of psychic thing you're doing with your own mind? Perhaps you like maybe, like they say, we don't tap our full potential, but maybe in a instant where you're in a place where you're heard, things move here, objects do this,
Right.
lights do this. Perhaps it's a part of your mind. Maybe our minds can do things that we're unaware, and our subconscious causes these things to do and manifest. And it's
Wow.
us doing
It's
it.
us doing it. We don't know that we're doing it, but
Right.
yeah.
We don't know. I mean, it could be. I mean, I'm not saying what it is for. I do, like I said, I do believe there are ghosts, and I do, like, because like my grandma's like there's nothing that makes sense about that other than
Right.
her cousin Eddie came and was like, hey God, can I just tell her where it is?
Right. Right.
It's like, okay, just tell her, then get back. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
probably got a curfew.
Hurry up. Yeah. Or maybe he was in purgatory because he forgot to tell her before he, and this
Oh,
was
that's true. Maybe
God's
he
like,
was
hey,
about
if you
out.
went out of purgatory, tell your cousin where the stuff is.
Right.
Golly, Eddie, you had so much time. Why didn't you just give it to her? You know,
Right. I think Eddie's probably the key to this whole thing. We could figure
yeah,
out Eddie, we would know. Yeah.
yeah. And unfortunately, I can't ask because I never met him, and
Yeah.
and now my grandma's dead, and but like my whole family knows this story, and
Right.
so it's like it's one of our family stories that, and I don't know who ended up with the china. I think one of my uncles did,
I was gonna
but
ask, like, if you could, if you can't find the China again, like
yeah,
maybe,
maybe I can ask Eddie. What would be funny is because like my mom lives with us and we have a lot of my grandma's old bells and all these other things. I want like I might have to look. Maybe we have the china.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
I have no idea because I my mom was not one into using china ever, but
Right.
I know she had like the silver and she had these bells. So maybe she ended up with it because she was the oldest daughter. So maybe.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think my other aunt was really, she wasn't into that stuff either. The only thing I can think is my one uncle might have ended up with it, but I don't know. It'd be cool if I did have it. I'll have to look because
Yeah.
but like as far as I know, I don't have any china in my house. Because we're paper plate kind of people. So
Right. Yeah, it's better for the environment that way. So
is it? I don't know.
that's what I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, killing. So I think we've you know
We've covered it. This has
yeah.
been kind of
I know
revealing
we
for
didn't go
everyone.
over all the equipment they use, but I
Oh
mean, people
yeah,
can look that up. I mean,
that's
we
true.
we talked about the EMF detectors, the voice
Yeah.
phenomenon,
The rods, you talk about the low
the
tech rods,
dowsing
right?
rods, yeah, and then I mean, there's a bunch of other there's spirit boxes which pick up radio frequency. It's similar to the voice phenomenon thing
Okay.
where you'll ask a question and it like goes through all these like very quickly all these radio frequencies. And if you've ever seen it, it is kind of bizarre. They'll ask a question. It's like, yes, you can. It's like, and it's different voices, but it's picking out words. And it's
Right.
and spirit boxes are very similar. I don't mess with Ouija boards,
Oh,
and that
yeah,
those
yeah,
weird
me
me
too.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
like, you don't go messing with that kind of stuff. It's
yeah.
just
Well,
not
that's what
worth
I
it.
said. If I can't see it,
Right.
I don't want to make it angry because I can't you can't fight like that's why I always like when they're like punch me or scratch me. I'm like, why?
Why would
Why would
anybody
you
ever do
do
that?
that?
Yeah.
Don't be mean to the ghost or the demon or the demon child. You know, do you want a friend? You can come stay with me. No, no,
Right.
no, you
No,
can't.
no.
You stay here. There's a reason you're here. You were
Right.
naughty. Stay here. And I'm not giving you a toy. I don't want to be
I
your
like these
friend.
Ken's rules for ghosts. Like this is good, right? I think
Yeah.
that don't talk to them. Yeah. Don't
Don't
ask.
talk, leave them alone. You
Right.
don't need to know why they're still here. They're here for a reason, probably not a good one.
Right.
Let them
Don't
go.
ask, don't tell, right?
Yeah,
I heard it's a
exactly.
good policy. I don't know.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it needs to be like
Yeah.
maybe Trump will sign that into like an executive order. Don't ask, don't tell ghosts.
That's right. Hopefully he removes the ghost from the military, right?
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
yeah.
and Social Security because they shouldn't be getting that money. What are they
Right.
going to do with it?
That's actually maybe Doge discovered the ghost for real.
Yeah,
The 300-year-old, people receiving Social Security or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, that could be. So next week
Next week.
we're gonna dive in or rocket off into the moon landing.
We're gonna. Oh, that's the best way to phrase that. That was so good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we're doing. We're
yeah,
launching into it. It's gonna be a
yeah,
fireball of fun
yeah.
and
It's gonna be explosive.
explosive. Oh, so
Well,
good.
maybe we shouldn't say that because that's kind of sad for like
That's
because
true.
there's the Apollo and the
That's true.
Challenger.
Well, we could play that "Fly Me to the Moon,"
Yeah,
song.
fly
It'd be the
me to
opening. Do we?
yeah,
Oh, listeners, we don't. I don't think we have. Do we have an outro? We have an intro, but
yeah.
do we
We have an
have an
intro.
outro?
No,
Do
I
we
don't think
have an outro?
no.
Oh,
Why?
we like the song at the end of our episode.
Oh yeah,
Or
yeah. We have the song at the end.
oh,
Yeah,
okay, all right. I
yeah,
just
yeah,
I
yeah.
trying to think if we had it all covered because
Yeah, we have.
try to think about do we run a contest for like songs we can put on
Well,
during maybe in the middle of the show. I don't
well,
know.
what I was gonna say is, like we are getting more, like our the Spotify side's doing like getting more and more, but the YouTube has jumped up this week,
Oh,
like, we always joke about it, but obviously we want people to like, subscribe, share. So I'm saying that for probably the first time on the show to
yes.
like, subscribe, and share YouTube and Spotify. Check us out. Leave us a comment our message. We've had some good comments and some conversations with some people on previous episodes, which was cool because there's some stuff I hadn't seen and they made me aware of some things. So I appreciate that. But if you have something you want us to look into, and that the moon landing is one we've both been asked or received messages they want us to do one on the moon landing. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna talk about the moon, and it might be a 2-part episode. Like we may just focus on one part now and go back to it because moon landing there's a lot.
There's a lot of stuff
There's
to
a
it. And a
lot
lot
of
of
stuff.
people do not believe in it. Like
Right.
adamantly do not believe in it. So I
I
think episodes, yeah.
I teeter on this.
Mm,
Like there are days when I don't think we did. Then there are days where I think we might have, but I think all the stuff we see is faked.
right.
So like because I go from like because my expertise is video and film production.
Right.
And so when I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, from a video and film production standpoint, I'm like, okay, I know how they did that. Two, we just recently got the satellite technology to beam that kind of stuff
Right.
from here to here. How did they do it in 1960s?
Right.
And that, and there's more that we will get into because there are some other questionable things that have happened between now and then that make you go,
There are people who are saying strange things. Let's leave it at that.
yeah,
That's
there's
what I'm
people
referencing.
who are saying strange things, but there's also some things that were done by different agencies that make you be like, why would you do that? So yeah, if
We're
this
going to
was real,
expose it
why did
all.
you do? Yeah,
Why
yeah.
did they
So
do it? We're going to
yeah,
answer that.
yeah, we're going to answer that. So next week will be the moon landing.
I'm
And
excited for
yeah, so there you go. I think we're done. And remember, check out The Transcendental Tourist, The Fedora Files by Chip Stetson. Volume 1 has some really cool investigations, and he tells the history, the stories, and what he found when he was at these different places.
it.
So
Right.
it's a good read. It is.
I'm excited. If Chet somehow floats behind the background when when this is published, we'll
yeah,
know. Like,
yeah.
I
Well, I
gotta
mean,
meet. Yeah,
he's like, next time he's in town, I'll get us all together.
that'll be great.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. He's a
Yeah.
fun guy. So he's very fun. I've known I've actually he's one of my oldest friends. So like I've known him for 50 some years.
That's
So
amazing.
like we have pictures of us being babies in diapers because our parents were friends. And then and it's interesting that he grew up to go into ghosts and I went into like conspiracies and monsters. But there you go. That's
There
what
you go.
happens.
That's
That's what
awesome.
happens when you live in Ohio and there's nothing to do.
That's true. Your state is really responsible for this
Yeah,
podcast. We should add
exactly.
them as a sponsor.
Yeah. Go to Ohio and realize why you want to believe in ghosts because the place is dead. So anyway, there you go.
Anyway, that's the best line of the
Sorry to
you
everyone in
can't
Ohio that are still my friends. You may not be now, but there you go.
talk-
So I
Oh,
guess that's it. And
that's
I
it.
guess, yeah,
Yeah.
until next time, we'll see y'all later.
See you, everybody.